Lean and Kanban are actually two separate theories. You could certainly strive to be a lean enterprise without using Kanban, and you could certainly use Kanban without even knowing what the definition of a lean enterprise is. However, their ideas and concepts are closely related, and as such, often thought of together. So to start off with, what is lean? The core idea is to maximize customer value while minimizing waste. Simply, lean means creating more value for customers with fewer resources. Implementing lean follows a specific model which revolves around identifying the work which brings most value to the customer, reduces waste, and creates a workflow that allows the organization to deliver that work in the most efficient way possible. Principle 5, Seek Perfection, ensures that the processes used strive to continuously improve. Consider the definition and process as it relates to DevOps. The goal is to deliver value to the customer. From a development perspective, this means working on features and bugs that the customer needs, whether that customer is external or internal. If the development team is not communicating with their customers and product managers, they will not be able to prioritize work. If they are working on features that customers do not need or want, that work is wasted. The same holds true for operations if their work is focused on keeping the lights on and not helping customers recognize value. Now that we know what lean is, let's talk about Kanban. Kanban uses visual representation to improve the throughput of work by identifying and reducing work in progress which remains in an unfinished state due to bottlenecks. The result is improved quality of work and decreased time in queue. These representations also help identify bottlenecks in the process, so the places where the flow of work slows can be corrected and improved over time. In its simplest form, a Kanban board is just a whiteboard using Post-it notes, with the whiteboard set up to match whatever the existing process for the workflow is. Let's use a simple Agile software development example. The Kanban board might have a column for work that is in the backlog, in development, in QA, and work that has been done or is already deployed to production. Each Post-it note describes an individual task, also referred to as a Kanban with a lowercase k, that needs to be assigned for someone to complete. For example, fixing a bug in a software application. The Post-it note, or Kanban, would have the relevant information about the task. This might include a description, a ticket ID from your bug tracking system, and a due date. In this example, the work item is assigned from the backlog during a planning meeting to the development team for coding, then handed off to QA for testing, and finally deployed into production. In a perfect world, items would flow smoothly and in a timely manner. However, Kanban helps identify where bottlenecks might exist in the process. The numbers in the top of the column represent how much work is capable of being completed without having to wait in the queue for long periods of time. In other words, avoiding waste. Here we have estimated that the development team can be working on 8 tasks at any given time, while QA can work on 4. If work items are being held up in QA for long periods of time, for example, this means that the development team is not being utilized well because work items are not able to move from development to QA in a timely manner. On the surface, without Kanban, it may look like there is not enough work being completed or for the development team, but in reality they are in a waiting state, thus wasting resources. There could be any number of reasons for this, but is easily visualized on the Kanban board. Being able to visualize this, the team can now look at their policies and processes to determine what needs to be done in order to remove the bottleneck. This could be anything from staffing to implementing new tools or providing training for the people or departments involved. In some cases, estimates on how much work can be handled may also need to be adjusted. So, where did Kanban come from? Kanban was developed by Taiichi Ohno of Toyota in support of their lean, just-in-time production systems. This system was modeled after modern supermarkets. Since many types of food go bad if they sit for too long, supermarkets only stock what is needed, and consumers only take what is needed. If a shelf in the bread aisle is empty, for example, it needs to be restocked. The visual representation of an empty shelf tells the supermarket staff they need to restock the bread. Now, think back to the previous software development example. If QA is capable of working on 4 items at any given time, but there are only 3 currently assigned, we have a visual cue on the Kanban board that work needs to move from development to QA. This also opens spots for items to move from the backlog into the development work queue. Implementing Kanban in an organization is typically very simple because it does not require changes in current methodologies or policies. Though if we take into account continuous improvement, it is likely that over time these methodologies and policies will change. It is also quite common for individuals to implement their own personal Kanban board. that is, tasks that are assigned just to them. When used properly, this can help team members focus on what tasks they are working on at any given time and provide visual representation to management of the impact of adding new requests. A personal Kanban board is often very simple, even more simple than the basic Agile software development board we've shown earlier. A personal Kanban board typically consists of 3 columns labeled To Do, or Backlog, Doing, and Done. Experienced practitioners may expand this to add additional information to their board, such as a column labeled Blocked for items that cannot proceed through the workflow regardless of available resources due to some other external influence. So far, we have used a whiteboard and Post-it notes as an example of our Kanban board. While this is easy to set up and get started with, it doesn't scale particularly well for large teams or teams in dispersed geographic locations. There are, however, several electronic tools, as you might expect in our digital, app-driven age. Some of the popular tools include Jira, Trello, Asana, LeanKit, Target Process, and AgileZen. Many of these have free subscriptions or low-cost options to get a feel for how they work and fit in a particular environment. Pictured is an example of a Trello board used during a recent project. This team had defined a backlog and met on a bi-weekly basis to review, prioritize, and assign items from the backlog to individual team members before starting a 2-week sprint. Once assigned, that work item, or Kanban, moved from the backlog into the work in progress column, then into review, and finally declared done. Let's take a look at a use case from a company called Topalo, published on leankanban.com. Topalo was founded in 2007 and found success in the early days of social media. They allowed consumers to leave and find reviews for local businesses. By 2010, they had grown to a point where the number of incoming requests was more than the team could manage. The team needed a way to manage and assign requests to developers that were important to their customers. Enter Kanban. Topalo implemented Kanban to view and identify all of the various requests coming into the team. They were able to organize all of the requests and ensure the items that delivered the most value were being focused on. They went through many iterations of their Kanban, a completely normal outcome since part of the lean Kanban process is continuous improvement. Not only was the development team able to successfully implement Kanban to provide order and consistency, other departments in the company such as marketing and HR also adopted Kanban to organize and manage their work items. As you have seen, Lean focuses on the elimination of wasteful activities from any process, speeding delivery of product from concept to user. Kanban provides a specific practice that can help visualize these activities and identify wasteful or poor-performing processes in the flow. Because the ideals of the Lean methodology and techniques of the Kanban practice are both focused on optimized workflow, these 2 techniques are frequently discussed and implemented together. And since DevOps is also focused on optimizing process flow, the Lean Kanban methodology is often part of DevOps practices.